Let's break down one of the most intriguing boxing matchups of the year, Errol Spence Jr. versus Tim Tszyu. This isn't just another big name fight, it's a crossroads fight. One man is attempting one of the biggest comebacks in modern boxing after nearly 3 years away from the ring. The other is trying to prove that he still belongs among boxing's elite after suffering the toughest stretch of his career. This fight headlines a major event in Sydney, Australia, with Spence returning against Tszyu in a pivotal clash that many view as a make or break bout for both men. This matchup is basically elite fundamentals versus relentless pressure. So let's break it down. First, let's talk about Errol Spence Jr. At his best, Spence wasn't just one of the best welterweights in the world, he was one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. Honestly speaking, his style has always been built around pressure, precision, and systematic breakdowns. And when we talk about the fight style for Spence, the number one thing we have to focus on is the elite southpaw jab. Everything starts with Spence's jab. He uses it to control distance, set up combinations, break opponents' rhythm. It's one of the best jabs in boxing, and that leads to the devastating body work of Spence. Very few fighters attack the body like Spence does. He invests downstairs from round one right away. Those body shots don't always produce immediate results, but by the championship rounds, opponents begin slowing down dramatically. And of course, we have to talk about the relentless pressure that this man always puts on. Spence isn't a reckless pressure fighter. He's calculated. He constantly walks opponents down while maintaining defensive responsibility. He forces fighters to box at a pace that they don't want to. And of course, we also have to talk about the ring IQ. Spence rarely abandons the game plan. He takes away opponents' strengths and slowly breaks them mentally and physically. And if we take a quick look at Spence's recent fight record, of course, he had a devastating loss to Terence Crawford, and that was 3 years ago, and we're gonna get into that later in this video. Before that, he had a round 10 TKO against Tsyu, and then he had a canceled bout against Pacquiao, and before that, he defeated Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. Now, when you look at his fight resume recently, you can say, hey, he's just coming off one loss of one of the greatest boxers in this generation. But the biggest question isn't his fight resume. It's whether the long layoff has affected the version of Errol Spence we'll see on fight night. All right, he has openly acknowledged those questions heading into his return. I think that's the biggest question going into the entire fight. Now let's talk about Tim Tszyu. Tszyu has built his career on toughness, pressure, and constant offensive output. He's not flashy, but he's very effective. When we talk about his fight style, the number one thing we have to talk about is his constant pressure. Tszyu loves coming forward. He cuts off the ring well and forces opponents into uncomfortable exchanges. And of course, we also have to take account that he does have heavy hands. Tim isn't a one-punch knockout artist like some middleweights or anything like that, but every punch has purpose. Every combination is thrown with bad intentions, and of course that leads to his excellent combination punching. Tszyu does some of the best work when opponents are backed up. He'll throw 3 or 4 or even 5 punch combinations without giving opponents room to breathe. And that leads to his mental toughness. One thing we've learned about Tszyu is he's not afraid of adversity. Even after difficult losses, he continues taking dangerous fights, although he might be at a disadvantage to him. But regardless, that mentality is why many believe he remains one of boxing's toughest competitors. And when we take a quick look at Tszyu's recent fights on his fight record, defeated in his last fight. Before that, fought Anthony Velasquez, had a unanimous decision, and then had a devastating bloody loss against Sebastian Fundora. And then he did have a TKO against Joey Spencer. Before that, had a huge upset against Bakram. So when we look at Tszyu's record, he enters this fight after rebuilding momentum. There was a retirement phase where I feel like he should just call it quits, but moving up to middleweight, seeing the Spence bout as a chance to revive his championship ambitions, I think he believes this is the perfect fight for him. And if he wins, it's gonna be a good gamble that paid off well. So when we take a look at the stylistic matchup between both fighters, this is where things get more fascinating. It's pretty much pressure versus pressure. Unlike many boxing matches, neither fighter wants to fight backwards. Spence has the elite jab, he has the body work, he has the controlled pressure, while Tsyu, on the other hand, he has the forward aggression, combination punching, and high work rate. Someone will have to give ground. And I'm not saying these are the skill set that they possess and the other fighter doesn't. No, they have the same type of skill set, but in my opinion, the way they display those skill sets is definitely different. And then one thing we're going to be looking forward to, which I feel like is going to play out, is the battle of the jab. Whoever wins the battle of the lead hand could control the fight. Spence has the cleaner jab and he's going to try to keep doing that right from round one, while Tsyu has the higher pressure. This chess match could determine everything. And of course, we have to talk about the body work, which I think we're going to see a lot of from both men. Both men love attacking the body. Don't be surprised if the early rounds feature heavy investment downstairs before either fighter starts opening up upstairs. I think that's something we're going to see a lot in this fight. But in my opinion, the most important question and the most important thing which I feel like fans are going to be looking out for is the ring rust versus the momentum. This may be the biggest storyline. Spence hasn't fought in nearly 3 years. Tim Tszyu has remained active, but he's also observed significant punishment in his recent fights. So the question is, who benefits? The fresh veteran or the active fighter? There are disadvantages for both, right? Of course, coming off a 3-year layoff is not good for anybody in any sports. It's going to be a fascinating thing to watch how Spence gets back to that. And there's still a lot of questions that have not been answered since his last fight against Terrence Crawford. Of course, before that, having a fatal accident, which he almost lost his life. We don't know if he actually came back to the real Spence or if Terrence Crawford just put on a beat down. Tim Tszyu, on the other hand, has taken a lot of damage. Now he's on a comeback streak right now, but that definitely still plays an effect. When it comes to the path to victory for Errol Spence, I think the blueprint is clear. He's going to try to establish the jab. Everything starts behind the southpaw jab, and that's what we're going to start seeing from him. And of course, he's going to start attacking the body. He's going to try and slow Tszyu's pressure before it becomes overwhelming. And Spence is going to try to control the pace. He's going to try his best not to allow this to become a wild exchange, and he's going to try to fight at his rhythm. And of course, if this fight gets into the championship rounds, if Spence still has his conditioning, round 9 through 12 could belong to him. If he executes his game plan, a decision victory or late stoppage is very realistic. Now, when it comes to the path to victory for Tim Tszyu, the strategy is quite different. I think he's going to try his best to start very fast, test Spence immediately, force him to answer questions about the layoff, right? He's been more active, he's more used to the ring compared to Spence, and he's going to have that home crowd momentum as this fight is in Australia, right? So he's going to try to get him out of there as soon as possible, and that leads to the pressure that's going to be constant. He's going to try his best not to give Spence any room to establish rhythm, and he's going to try to make it physical. I feel like Tszyu is going to turn this into a hard grinding fight because that's what he's good at. The more uncomfortable Spence becomes, the better Tszyu's chances are. And I feel like he's going to capitalize on any ring rust that he sees. If Spence sees timing isn't there early, Tszyu has to take advantage, and I feel like that's what he's going to do. In my opinion, the biggest X factor is simple. Which version of Errol Spence shows up? If the pre-Crawford version Spence shows up, I don't even think I will need to make this video, honestly speaking. It will be one of those "this fight is not going to be close" type videos. No question, all right? This becomes an elite boxing performance if we see Spence. If the layoff has diminished him, Tszyu has every opportunity to secure the biggest win of his career, and it's gonna be a massive win for him in his hometown, honestly speaking. Now, like I said, there's still so many questions we have, especially about Spence. I feel like he really got a good beating from Terrence Crawford. I did pick Crawford to win that fight, but I didn't think it was gonna be that dominant and one-sided. But I give Spence a lot of props here because he's coming back after layoffs, taking these crazy fights, came back after an accident, fought Terrence Crawford, took a lot of damage, 3-year layoff, coming back to fight Tim Tszyu. He didn't even take a tune-up fight or anything like that, honestly speaking. So shout out to Errol Spence, man. But objectively speaking, this is one of the hardest fights to predict because there are so many unknowns. Like I said, at his peak, I'll definitely favor Spence. But after a lengthy layoff, a move in weight, and years away from competition, there are legitimate questions surrounding his timing and durability. And that's one of the things I'm going to be looking forward to. I feel like Tim Tszyu has more advantages here. He's younger, active, naturally bigger at his age, and fighting in front of his home crowd, which is definitely an advantage. My prediction, I think Tim Tszyu wins this by TKO in round 10. My heart really does say Spence, and I do want Spence to win. It's going to be a great comeback, but objectively speaking, my brain is saying Tszyu. I think Spence boxes beautifully early behind the jab and body work, but as the fight moves into the later rounds, Tszyu's pressure and activity is going to begin to wear him down, leading to a dramatic late stoppage. But let me know what you think in the comments. You think this is going to be one of the greatest comebacks, Spence winning? I hope that's what happens, and honestly speaking, I'm not counting him out. Can never count Spence out, but with all the factors playing in, I gotta go with Tsyu. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more breakdown videos like this. I'll see you on the next one.